All right. The college football playoff rankings have just been released. Let's just go ahead and go make our picks real quick before we get into that. Um, so yeah, let's just jump into it. The makeup game, Akron Buffalo, not very important. Who are you going with?
It's it's an easy game for Buffalo to win. If they
Yeah,
don't, I'm disappointed.
yeah, I'm going Buffalo. North Texas UTSA, I'm going UTSA.
It's going to be a close game. UTSA struggled against UTEP. 24-point come from behind win. Um, I say it's going to be another miracle win for Texas San Antonio.
Yeah, yeah, I'm going Roadrunners. Um, the rematch game, Utah USC.
I,
I hate to say it. I
Utah
hate to say it, but I think USC wins it this time.
USC is not going to win. Simply for the fact that Utah, what they did well in the first game was they controlled Caleb Williams' ability to run out of the pocket. And if you eliminate that, Utah has a chance to win. So I'm going to go to Utes. It's going to be a close game. It's going to be decided by 3 points or less.
All right. We're gonna be there Saturday. I'm so excited. Kansas State TCU. I can't go against the Horned Frogs. I know you're probably wanting to, but I gotta go TCU.
And keeping all bias and stuff out of this one, um, I think Kansas State gets it done in the rematch. I really do. I think Adrian Martinez is going to run all over the Horned Frogs defense because if you're going to go USC in the last game, you got to go Kansas State here because it's a rematch game. So I'm going the Wildcats. It's going to be a whole lot of purple Saturday.
There's gonna be a lot of purple. For the MAC title, Toledo, Ohio.
I got to go Ohio. They're having one of their best years in a while. I mean, looking at their record, they're 7-1 in conference play, 9-3 overall.
I can't
Um,
believe they're not favored in this game. I don't know how they're not favored, but
that is a little shocking. Um, but yeah, I really do believe Ohio gets this done.
yeah, I'm picking Ohio too. I don't like this one. Coastal at Troy. I guess Grayson McCall's not going to be back, so I'm gonna have to go
I gotta
Troy.
I gotta go Troy on this one.
Yeah. Poor LSU. Uh, I don't see any way for LSU
I
to win.
I think the reason you saw A&M beat LSU is I think LSU got caught looking a week ahead. With that being said, expect Jaden Daniels to have one of his best performances on Saturday. I expect LSU.
Hopefully he's feeling good.
I think he's fine. He was walking around and everything. They just kept him out of the game Saturday just for
Um,
precautionary measures.
he went down a
Um,
couple times, so something to keep an eye on at least. For the American UCF Tulane. What are you? Who are you going with for the?
Georgia, I got to go with LSU on that one.
You're going LSU?
I'm going with the upset.
Okay, I'm sticking with Georgia, but uh, see, I would have picked LSU, but I don't know. I'm a little bit doubtful about Jaden Daniels being at his best. I don't know. I feel like he's not going to be completely healthy. I guess I don't know.
Well, about that game, you got to think about it is LSU has one of the best defenses, and they have a guy on the side of the ball that's a freshman. Hopefully, he's healthy. Um, that's recorded 4 sacks in the Arkansas game in a single game, tying the LSU record. So it's one of those things where if LSU comes together and pulls together, and not to mention Emory in the backfield for the running game, LSU has the materials to be a legit team.
Defensively, I think they'll be all right. The question comes with the offense. So we'll see. UCF Tulane. I'm going with Tulane.
I got to go to Green Wave. They shouldn't have lost the 2 games they did. Um, but I mean mistakes happen.
Yeah. For the Mountain West, Fresno, Boise. I'm actually gonna go with Fresno on this one. Going the Bulldogs.
Everything wants me to go with Fresno. Everything does. But the one game that I nearly predicted right this year was Wyoming over Boise. And Boise somehow found a way to win that one, so I'm gonna go the Broncos.
Okay. Purdue, Michigan. I think Michigan wins it easy.
I I think they do win it easily. I don't think Blake Corum's going to be back for this game. I think they're going to hold him out until the playoffs just to rest him up, be healthy. Um, so for all you sports bettors out there, don't pick him for a touchdown this week, just because I do feel like he is going to be out for this game. Um, especially with Edwards, the way he ran the ball against Ohio State, I don't see a reason why you would need Corum,
No.
um, especially against Purdue.
Yeah, not against Purdue. And then finally, Clemson, Carolina.
Before we get there, just to kind of give you an idea, I don't know why you would need Blake Corum when you're already favored 16.5 points.
Yeah. No, Edwards showed that he's very capable last week.
Yes.
Yeah, Clemson, Carolina. I'm going Clemson.
Drake May is going to go off. Clemson, and the reason why I don't have confidence as Clemson is because when you have South Carolina coming to your home field, 40-game win streak on the line, and your quarterback is 8 of 29 for 99 yards passing, is pathetic for a
Yes.
five-star quarterback. I mean, absolutely pathetic. DJ Ugalele is going to be benched after this year, and Cade Klubnik is not any better.
I think he's a little better.
So Clemson better find a quarterback, and they better find a quarterback quick because Florida State in the ACC is starting to look good. North Carolina is looking good. And if Wake Forest, they're just 1 or 2 players away from actually making a decent run in the ACC.
NC State too.
NC State, if they get Devin Leary back, if he doesn't go pro.
All right. You want to go over the rankings then?
Let's do it.
All right. All right. Well, there's the top 25. And does anything, let's start with the top 10. Does anything really stick out to you in the top 10?
I mean, in the top 10, one that really sticks out to me is Washington. Um,
In the AP
in,
poll, yeah.
in the
Yeah.
AP poll, definitely. And the reason why is like, I don't think Washington has that great of resume. Um,
Well, I find it interesting that they're not
but
even going to be playing for the Pac-12 title yet. They're ahead of Utah in this final
that is
regular
true.
season AP
Well,
poll.
the reason why the reason why they're not going to be playing for the Pac-12 title is because um Utah held a tiebreaker
Yeah,
with
but I just find it
Washington.
interesting that they're ranked higher at this point, and they're not even
But
playing in the title game.
go down a little bit here so I can see the full top 25. Another one that kind of sticks out to me is like the question of whether or not Florida State's back. They're back. It's pretty obvious. The other one that kind of surprises me here is if you look at the AP poll, they're nowhere ranked in the AP, or they are ranked in the AP poll. Um, but Oregon State at 15. That's a team that's quietly just sitting there. Um,
I told you last week that was one to keep your eye on.
South Carolina is also another one that kind of surprises me because
I
they're just
never would have thought they'd be 8-4.
they're just one of those teams to where like I don't think they're that good to where they should be ranked that high. Um, but as of late, they put it together. Now, I do believe Spencer Rattler will come back for another year, which makes the South Carolina team very. I'm going to go ahead and say it. This is a hot take for this week. South Carolina next year, if Spencer Rattler returns, may be the team to beat in the East.
Okay.
I think they have enough weapons there. I think Shane Beamer has them playing really well. Special teams for them is like outstanding. Um, there's not really a downside. I mean, other than Spencer Rattler, I mean, it's really up to him and whether or not he wants to show up and play 4 quarters of football every week, or if he wants to take a week off.
Well, I mean, you did say the same thing about Tennessee last year, though. They'd be the team to beat in the East, and you're pretty close.
Yeah, Tennessee was just really one game away. I know Georgia beat them in Athens, but Georgia didn't really beat them. Beat them. South Carolina beat them. Georgia was kind of more of
It was a
let me
defensive,
hold the ball the longest and not give you
yeah.
possession. Um, like Georgia should have put up more points than they did, but they didn't. And that's the reason I genuinely believe LSU has a legit shot to win the SEC championship.
All right. We'll find out. Um, Man, I don't know where to go from here, but
So,
everybody covered everything.
so
You,
one thing that I was going to bring up is if we have anybody like scrolling through YouTube or anything, and like y'all find the video, just jot your comments in the section below, and kind of tell us what you think. But the idea of TCU and USC both losing this weekend, how does that shake up the top four? Who gets in? Who gets left out?
well, USC is definitely out at that point. TCU is going to drop to 4.
I I just here's the issue I have with TCU. You go in and look at their strength of schedule, and you look at Ohio State, and Ohio State played Notre Dame at the beginning of the year. They played trying to remember who else they played in non-conference this year. Um but Ohio State played a tough schedule. So let's take a look at Ohio State's schedule for a second. So they played Notre Dame, beat them 21-10. Um and then the other one that kind of sticks out to me a little bit is the Penn State game. Um and then also Northwestern, even though Northwest was, I
Yeah.
mean, an absolute slugfest. Um,
Penn State had the lead by 5 with 8 minutes left and just fell apart.
and here's the issue with Ohio State. If you notice, going down through here, the teams that are a better quality as far as like competition, they struggle and the point spread is a lot closer than they anticipate.
Maryland really kept it close. It
And
was
and
much
that's
closer than that final score indicated.
yes. Um, like I mean, it was 36-30 with like a couple minutes left, and then they basically forced a fumble and scored.
Yeah.
Uh, that's the only reason they won by 13.
Maryland had the lead at half. I mean,
Now go in and look at TCU strength of schedule.
see, TCU had a lot of wins over ranked opponents, but a lot of those ranked opponents, they're no longer ranked.
So here's my issue with TCU. So the Kansas game, I'll give them credit. Kansas looked really good, but look at what Kansas did the rest of the year. That's going to hurt. So even though these teams are ranked, it's a matter of how they finished after you played them. So I deduct a point for TCU for Kansas win because of what Kansas did. I also deduct a point for the Oklahoma State win because of what Oklahoma State did the rest of the year. Oklahoma definitely deduct a point because I mean they flat out sucked this year. Kansas State is a legitimate win, and we're going to see how true that is this Saturday. Texas, a legitimate win.
Should have been a 17-3 final, but
And then Baylor was a legitimate win. But here's the other issue. They played Tarleton State week 2. They gave up 17 points to a Division II school on defense.
defense has gotten better over the season.
So, in like I believe that and I see that, but at the same time,
They showed that against Texas.
you can't be giving up 17 points to a Division II school and expect to win a national championship. So therefore, if I looking at Ohio State and TCU both, and then go over to Alabama's strength of schedule real quick.
Should have lost to Texas.
So you have Utah State, which was what it should have been, 55-0. Texas was a struggle, but you look at how Texas finished. So that's a Texas team that you beat on the road on a last second field goal, and now they're ranked in the top 25. So that's a quality win. You look at Arkansas, quality win. You lose to Tennessee at Tennessee on the final field goal. That's a quality win because they're ranked one spot below you. Mississippi State, you beat them convincingly. They're top 25. Arkansas, you lost to them on the last play, or LSU, I mean, you lost to them on the last play of the game.
I still say that's the best game of the year.
And you lose to you beat an Ole Miss team on the road. I
It's a
mean,
close one.
you look at Alabama's schedule, and I mean, if TCU and USC lose, it's going to be hard dismissing the fact that Alabama has literally one of the toughest schedules.
I
As
just
far
don't
as
see a two-loss team getting in.
And the only reason I don't look at Tennessee as a 2-loss team getting in is because of the 63 points they gave up against South Carolina.
No,
Even though they
no, that killed them. They had a path, but after that game, that ended them. I just don't see a two-loss team getting in. I think
but
Ohio State's in pretty because if the committee was considering putting Alabama in the playoffs, they'd be in fifth right now over Ohio State. But the fact they're not, I don't see it happening.
but it would be chaos if the top 4 all lost their conference game this weekend.
See, Georgia and Michigan, even if they lose, they're fine. They're not going to drop out of the top 4. They're safe where they are. TCU, if they do lose, let's say USC wins, then the committee's going to have to decide between Ohio State and TCU.
So let's take a look over at some of the Capital One Bowl Mania and look at some of the projections we have right now.
I don't think that, I think this is that's for the game. I don't think they have the option to view
Go
the
to
bowl.
the All-State playoff predictor for a second. So Georgia has a 99% chance to make it.
Yeah, Michigan too. See, they're both fine.
TCU is a 90% chance.
Yeah, I don't
So
see if they lose, they'll fall back to fourth. I'm pretty sure that they won't fall out.
so if they win, it's a 54% chance. Or win percentage is 54. So okay, let's
Yeah,
click on K-State and see what happens with TCU's chances.
I think we're supposed to pick every team.
So okay, pick Clemson, Georgia.
And then which one?
Utah. So okay, here's another thing to look at. So in 2014, TCU was idle during this, right?
Yeah.
So
See USC would have Ohio State in.
okay, now go back up and let's play around with this just to see what the results would be. So
Now
pick
let's go with hold on. Um, I gotta refresh. All right, let's go. Let's stick with Clemson. We'll stick with Georgia, K-State, Michigan. This time we'll
go.
pick USC. Yeah, see, Ohio State's still in.
So even if USC were to win their conference championship,
No, if they lose. No, if they win, yeah. That's got TCU losing. Hold on, that doesn't seem right. That should be
yeah.
USC.
So that's what I'm saying. So they're saying that if TCU loses, they still get in over USC.
Well, here's okay, so it should still be USC though over Ohio State.
That's what you would think. Okay, now let's do this playoff like conundrum.
All right.
So Clemson, LSU, K State, Purdue, Utah.
Yeah. Yeah, they still get I don't the top three are probably not gonna fall out if they lose. The only team in the top four that would fall out if they lost would be USC.
Yes. Yeah.
And Ohio State would get in because they're ranked a spot ahead of Alabama. So the committee values them because it's just going off of the loss, one versus two.
So okay,
But
go back up and do this scenario. I'm curious to see what it would do because you look at Clemson, Georgia, TCU, Purdue, Utah. Interesting. Okay. So you have Georgia, Ohio State first game, and then you have a TCU Michigan round one, which I kind of like that scenario. Um, I just don't like how this is the reason why you need a 12-team playoff. It's just, and the
yeah,
reason why is not me being SEC biased or anything. I just don't like how two Big Ten teams get in when you look at Ohio State's strength of schedule. As you saw, they didn't really play anybody.
yeah,
Only ranked game they had, the two ranked games they had was Penn State, Notre Dame, and Michigan,
Michigan.
and they got blown out by Michigan. And the other two games were close. So I don't value Ohio State the way the playoff predictor does. I don't value them the way the committee does. I genuinely believe Ohio State should be out of the playoffs, but that's just my opinion.
It's just simply the fact that they only have one loss versus two.
Yeah.
That's the only reason they get in.
But that's where we gotta kind of like take the losses out of it for a second and like look at the quality of games that were lost. Like despite them losing two games versus one game, how bad did they lose those games is the question the committee needs to ask themselves. Because why do you want to put a team on the national stage that got blown out by a team at home by 22 points?
Yeah.
Or do you want to keep things interesting and allow a two-loss team in that only won by or only lost by a field goal and a 2-point conversion?
Well, and I know you don't really want to look at games that they should have lost that they won, but you can argue Alabama almost lost at home to A&M, and they had a close one with Ole Miss too. So you can kind of bring that into it, I guess. They did win, yes, but I don't know. That can also kind of play into it a little bit.
So, but I mean, it's going to be interesting. It's definitely going to be something that we got to look at. One other thing I was going to bring up, depending on how much time we have left,
We have time.
um, does Bryce Young, Will Anderson, and Jahmyr Gibbs return to Alabama for a final season, or do they turn pro? And
Well, I mean,
how many of this year's seniors do you see turn pro versus stay an extra year and capitalize on NIL?
see, that's the thing. The NIL deals, the amount of money they're making off of those, pretty much the same as what they would make, or maybe even more than what they make first year in the NFL. So we are going to see more and more athletes stay in college rather than go pro. So I can kind of see Bryce Young going pro and Gibbs or whoever coming back.
The one I can see coming back that's not an Alabama player, and I see him coming back for one reason and one reason only, is to finish unfinished business. And when I say this, a lot of people are going to be like, there's no way in your right mind this is going to happen. But I believe since the injury, Hendon Hooker comes back to Tennessee for his final year of eligibility to show that his knee is completely healthy, to finish unfinished business as far as like what Tennessee fans were wanting. Um, and the reason I say that is because you got to look at the situation Tennessee is going to be in. So it's either um, Joe Milton stay and take over the quarterback position with his
I
final year.
think that'll happen. I think Hooker's gone.
Or you have a true freshman, Nico Lumulable, out of California, who is an absolute stud, come in and start as a true freshman. I don't see the second scenario playing out. I don't see Milton or Lave taking over the starting job right away, at least. So Hooker has an interesting position because you got to look at it. He was plus 325 to win the Heisman before the injury.
Yeah.
The week after the injury, he wasn't even on the Heisman ballot.
He's not even in the top five.
And so that was like me personally, if I had an extra year of eligibility, knowing I was that close to won a national championship, to the Heisman Trophy, and knowing how much money I can make because of what I did this past year to bring in relevance back to Tennessee, I would stick around another year of NIL and then turn pro. That's just me. Um, and then yeah, so it's just one of those deals where I believe he will come back. It's just a matter of waiting and finding out.
We'll see. I think he's going pro, and I think Milton's probably going to take over. It just seemed like with senior day and everything, it just seemed like the celebration was kind of centered around Hendon Hooker, making it seem like he's not coming back. But you never know. We'll see.
Yeah. Now, here's one that I've heard rumors about, and I was going to get your thoughts on this one because I've heard rumors around people that I currently know and radios I currently listen to, like in the area that I'm in. The thought of Josh Heupel recruiting a transfer quarterback, and the one that comes to mind when I think of this, and this may surprise you, but his final year of eligibility in NCAA, unless he chooses to go for a 6th year of eligibility. Um, but Malik Cunningham going to Tennessee.
Hmm. That's
Because
interesting.
I've heard the rumors that Cunningham, like, of course, he can't stay at Louisville. So he has to either go somewhere else or go pro. I don't think he's pro ready.
Mm-mm.
So if I'm Malik Cunningham, I'm looking at all of my options and seeing that Hendon Hooker in most situations will probably go pro. I'm looking at Tennessee and the high powered offense that they have, knowing that it works in a spread offense, knowing that you're a mobile quarterback that will fit well in a spread offense. So, not to mention Josh Heupel is a quarterback whisperer because if you watch Hendon Hooker at Virginia Tech, he didn't really do a whole lot. It was more so after he got to Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm Malik Cunningham, I'm going to Tennessee to one, improve my draft stock, and two, to write my name in the record books. And so I can see it happening. If it does, you heard it here first. Um, and that's one that I can actually see success with under Heupel and both Cunningham.
Hmm. Yeah, I haven't heard about that, so that's interesting.
So that's one, and it's one of those that I just heard about, like literally, like early this morning slash later yesterday. Um, so it's not one of those that's like really out there. So we'll see if that plays out. And then in other news, Auburn's still going to be terrible under Hugh Freeze. And what was funny is, like, if any Auburn fans that want to tune into the show later on, you'll probably find this funny. But somebody on Facebook said Auburn just went from a Cadillac to an Escort.
Nice. Nice.
So, well, I think that's it for this episode. Um, we'll probably be back discussing college football playoffs and bowl games and what's going to happen as far as craziness and everything during the bowl season.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
I'm going to go on and make a bold prediction real quick just before championship week and playoff week.
All right.
Michigan's going to win it all.
Michigan's gonna win it all.
Michigan's going to win it all. And the reason I say that is because everybody thought CJ Stroud and Ohio State was just going to run away with it, even with Georgia looking the way they did. JJ McCarthy is like Joe Burrow 2.0. He's just cool, calm, and collective.
Well, anyone can beat anyone. I mean, Georgia's very beatable. Michigan's beatable.
And you got to think,
USC's beatable.
Georgia has not seen a team like Michigan to where it has two running backs of Michigan's caliber
Yeah.
and a quarterback that could absolutely swing it wherever he wants to. So if Georgia Michigan happens for the national title game,
It's
I
not
can't
gonna be like last year. It's not gonna be 34-11.
no, like I cannot wait for that to happen. Like
Oh,
it's gonna be electric.
oh yeah. No, it's not gonna be the Georgia O line just bullying the Michigan defense again. I definitely think it'd be much more competitive than last year.
But well, that's it for us tonight. I actually got to get off of here and do some cleaning and get some stuff ready for this weekend. So
All righty. I'll see you, man.
see ya.
Thanks for tuning in.